when it comes to the actual human anatomy and the biology of male and female, it seems like we have less viable sperm, less viable eggs. There's microplastic. There's a whole host of things that would contribute. Where do you lay the most blame?
Well, I don't lay very much at the biology. So that we talk about total fertility rate. Fertility for demographers is simply how many children are born. And
Mm-hmm.
then we say, well, why aren't they being born? Now, that may have a biological component, but it
Mm-hmm.
may be in a world of contraception or choice. So let's just kind of work back. Um, there's quite a lot of controversy about the sperm count, and there
Mm-hmm.
are different views about whether it's real, number one, and whether it matters at this point. In other words, the sperm count is still, for the vast majority of people, high enough to conceive fairly rapidly. And the best data that I have seen is at a given age, not very good data, but at a given age, people I know who are involved in the industry, it's kind of as likely that you'll conceive in a given period as it would have been in previous generations. If more people are having problems, biologically, it's because more people are leaving it till later. Now, that's not to say that the sperm count problem isn't necessarily real and that we could get below some kind of critical mass and then it becomes a big problem. But at the moment, the main constraint is not biological, it would seem. And if most people at a reasonable age engage in reasonably regular sexual activity, then I don't think it's all that different from how it's ever been. I'll just give you one little anecdote on the sperm count issue. I have a friend whose parents used to run a fertility clinic, and her father, who's no longer with us, he made a really interesting comment to me, which I've never heard anyone else make, but I will share it. Which he said, and he's dead now, and he was quite old. He was doing this back in the 70s and maybe the 60s. I don't know. He said when he started, if there was a problem, men would not accept it could possibly be them, and they often would not get tested. They would
Mm-hmm.
say, "No, no, it must be my wife. I'm a real man." Now attitudes have changed. And so it may be that as attitudes have changed, the sperm that gets tested increasingly is the sperm of people. So that's one possible theory that
Mm-hmm.
would suggest it's not. I'm not a biologist, so I'm not definitively saying there is no problem with sperm count, but it does seem to be um, the data. Some people question the data, and also whatever the data, most men have got plenty of sperm count now to be
Mm-hmm.
able to conceive with a suitable partner. So okay, so that's not why people are having fewer children. What are the reasons? And this is a really complicated thing because you look along the spectrum about causality. See, well, people are using contraception, but why are they using contraception? So that's one thing, and you can broadly put this into two buckets: material and cultural. So the material is, oh, we can't afford to start a family, we can't afford a home, we can't afford childcare, and the woman wants to pursue a career. And those are all very valid things. We're much richer as a society than we were when we had a much higher fertility rate, even back in the 70s, say, when contraception was generally acceptable, available. We still had a significantly higher fertility rate. So um, I don't think it's just the availability of contraception. The thing is what's motivating people to use contraception. And there are economic issues there. We are richer, but we have higher expect. And also, it is harder, I think, in many ways to get started. I think wages, you look at wages and they may be higher, but for young people, they're not necessarily higher. Housing is certainly very expensive. There's a whole range of things to do with economics. Koreans in the 50s had perhaps 5 children, and they were perhaps 1/20th as wealthy as they are now. So if you say, well, they're 20 times better off and now they can't afford to have children, something's wrong. So
Mm-hmm.
I tend to put more emphasis on the cultural issues. And the
Mm-hmm.
culture is a very broad term. What do we actually mean? And what we mean is different things in different places. So there's definitely been some kind of breakdown in relationship between the sexes. People are dating less, people are having less sex than they did sort of
Mm-hmm.
30, 40 years ago. They're becoming sexually active later. Um, And more people are saying they don't want children, although people still, on average, say they want 2 to 3 in most developed countries. So there's a whole range of reasons why people are not having children, and I think they vary across countries.